Welcome back to our program, Hollywood Structured. As some of you already know, our program is designed to help the young people who wish to enter the entertainment field, may it be music, nightclub work, theater, television, or film. It is also designed to help the parents and the educators of those young people, to help them understand their wants, their needs, and the pitfalls and the traps they may fall into unless thoroughly acquainted with the inner workings of Hollywood. Today we have another category in the film industry which we have not covered before. As our special guest today, we have someone who, while in school, was studying photojournalism and carried a little camera with him all the time, and later on decided, no, I've got to become a doctor. I've got to do something substantial. Guess what? He is now a very well-known and very well-respected unit still photographer for such pictures as The Abyss, Midnight Run, Predator 2, and many more, and another one which is coming right now called Point Break. His name is Richard Foreman. Hello, Richard.
Hello. Thank you for having me today.
That's fine. Before Richard shares his many experiences with us and his expertise, I would like to speak to you today about something that I've covered once before, but may not be in as many detail as I will today. I'm taking advantage of a photographer to speak about photography, what you young people need when you first start. The first thing you need is you don't have to spend $5,000 on a portfolio. You need a good 8x10 headshot, okay? And what you could use also is when you go for the shoot, and I know you're going to say to me, but I don't have enough money to spend to have several outfits, but it's not true. When you make an appointment with a photographer, say to the photographer, him or her, I am bringing 6 or 7 different outfits, and I would like to be photographed as, let's say this is the 8x10, but then I would love to have photographed as a soldier, as an athlete, as a doctor, as a cowboy, as a mechanic, as a cop, as a student, as a rebel, maybe. So that when your agent sends out your 8x10, if they say, oh, could I have a rebel? All you have to do is stipple this little picture on the 8x10, and now you're covered. Another thing which will also save you money is if you're going to have pictures taken, I'm talking to the guys, of course, grow a beard and grow a mustache, okay? And when you go to the shoot, have pictures taken with a beard in different outfits. Then shave the beard quickly, have taken some with a mustache in different outfits. Then shave the mustache, and then clean shaven, have all the other pictures taken. The reason is, and it always happens that way, your agent will call you one day and say to you, do you happen to have a picture with a beard? They want somebody like you, but you have to have a beard. Well, you can just say, I have one. That's it. It doesn't mean that you have to have them reproduced, all of them. Maybe you have 25 of the composite that you can then cut and tag on your own regular 8x10. Please, I'm now talking to the young ladies. At the age of 18, 19, or 20, when you first start, please do not have pictures retouched. You don't need it. When you're going to be 40 and 50, maybe you will. But not when you are 18, 19, or 20. For young ladies, and I will show you this, this is a young student of mine who is beginning to work pretty well right now. She has a picture of herself as a young age, as you can see. She has a picture of herself as a businesswoman. And the, of course, picture that we always need if you're going to have aerobic shot or dancing shot, a body. And then just a glamour shot. Okay? No, absolutely no retouching. Save your money. All right? Well, let's learn a little more about photographs from Richard. Richard, let me go back in time. Were you born in Los Angeles?
No.
Where were you born?
I was born actually on an Army base in Alexandria, Virginia. I was an Army brat.
You haven't changed.
No, I'm still a brat. I'm not in the Army. My father was in the Army, and we traveled all through the South.
Yes?
All through the United States, even to Hawaii. And ended up, he retired in Portland, Oregon, and I went to high school there. And later decided to go to school in the Bay Area in San Francisco.
But when you were in school, you studied journalism?
Are we speaking high school?
Yes.
When I was in high school, from the time I was a sophomore, I took photography classes. I worked for the school paper.
But didn't you also compete in swimming competition?
I was a swimmer from the time I was 7 until I was 19, competitively.
And you did scuba diving?
That came later. In college, I was certified as a scuba diver, and then later helped teach classes at Stanford University, where we went to school.
Now, what happened from being a swimmer, going into competition? Did you think of going to the Olympics, maybe?
I was headed in that direction. I was All-American 2 years in high school. I was recruited by most of the major universities throughout the nation to compete for them.
And what happened? Why didn't you?
I did for half of a season, and my freshman year I quit and I decided to do something I've always wanted to do, and I was in a play.
No, but let me ask you something. Did you not quit because you were tired of swimming back and forth?
3 hours a day?
3 hours a day?
That
And it became such a routine for you?
It was a routine, and it was, I didn't see myself doing it the rest of my life. I saw my studies, at what I was studying, not that I decided what I wanted to eventually do, I'm not sure I still have, but I felt that there was just too much to learn about life, and I couldn't spend 3 to 4 hours a day swimming back and forth in a swimming pool. Not that athletics is not important. I think my athletics through my younger life really helped develop me as a person, and yet I was entering my early adulthood, and I had to move on to different things.
I often say to my students, the French proverb, you know, rolling stone gathers no moss. However, Richard is contradicting me absolutely, because he has rolled around a lot and somehow it has paid off for him.
It's paying off, finally.
Okay, so now you're in school and you decide you're going to be a doctor?
When I went to Stanford University, I went with the intent of studying photojournalism. I wanted to eventually be a National Geographic photographer, writer. And they had well, I shouldn't say this. Back then, their communications department was not what I expected. I ended up studying psychology, which was another class I took in high school a lot. And then I ended up trying to design my own major, which you could do at Stanford. And somehow I ended up in the human biology department. Human biology at Stanford is a mixture of the physical and the natural sciences as geared toward human culture, human society, and human beings. And I ended up being so enthralled with physiology and the study of the human body that I decided to become a doctor. Of course, my parents were all in favor of this. And I ended up starting a pre-medical program in my junior year. It was very intensive because I had 2 years to catch up on. And then I worked in a hospital at Stanford University, the Stanford Hospital, which the university is part of. And I was a phlebotomist. I went around to the different wards and drew blood from the different people. And I found that the attitude of the medical profession in a tertiary care hospital like that, where people are not going to get better, people are basically going because they're terminally ill, I found that the attitude of the medical professional people was just kind of appalling, and it was almost callous. And somehow I saw myself becoming like that, and I just stopped altogether and started pursuing other things. I decided I didn't want to become a doctor.
And now what do? You run away to Mexico? Is that what you do?
I ran away. I would call it, I guess I did say running away. I wanted to travel and find out more about myself. And I think traveling is one of the best ways to do that, because you're submersed in a totally different culture. You're out there having to speak a foreign language, and you find out a lot about yourself, because oftentimes the only dialogue you can have in English is an internal dialogue, because you have to speak with other people in a foreign language. I highly recommend traveling as a form of therapy.
All right. Now, how did you get back to Hollywood the first time?
Well, I originally...
You came here to compete in a swimming competition to start with.
Back in my high school days.
And then you came to Hollywood.
Well,
why?
After traveling, I moved back to the Bay Area, staying alive with, whatever jobs I could get. I was in construction. I was in the solar heating industry. I sold solar heatings. I designed solar heating systems. And I did a lot of gratifying work, but as I made some money, I bought another camera. And I kind of rediscovered my passion for photography. And then I had another camera, and I had lens systems, and I was photographing everything. I would go to concerts, photograph concerts. And I just ended up deciding that indeed what I wanted to do was something either photographically related, video or film. And I took some courses in Super 8 film production and video production at a local community college, and somehow was offered a job in Hollywood. Moved to Hollywood, became an apprentice editor, decided I didn't want to do that. And I bounced around in Hollywood working for ABC Sports for a while, just doing different things, trying to decide what I eventually wanted to do. Did that for about a year, and suddenly decided to become an underwater photographer, which was always a dream before I ever moved to Hollywood.
How did you get the job in the Bahamas?
And I actually was the British Virgin Islands.
Yes.
I was there vacationing and left a card with someone asking about just working as a dive master on the boat, because I am an underwater assistant instructor. And I got a letter 3 weeks later saying, we have this underwater photography department we'd like you to run. And so I moved down there just on the whim and became an underwater photographer. It worked out. It was fun. It was a good...
How long were you there?
10 months.
10 months. Now, what brings you back to Hollywood?
Well, while living in the islands, I moved to the islands, and when I got there, everybody had the feeling that I was the photographer from LA. There was maybe 2 other photographers on the island. People actually felt that I could do the job. It gave me a lot more confidence. I did do the job. I developed a portfolio of not just underwater photography. I did brochures for different hotels, charter boats, dive operations. I started doing magazine work of all the different yacht races down in the islands. I saw it as kind of a dead end of being stuck on a rock somewhere in the Caribbean, which is kind of beautiful until you're there for a long time. And I thought, if I'm really going to make it, I'm going to follow up on my first intuition. I'm going to go back to Hollywood. I went back to Hollywood, and I scratched around until I finally connected with the film thing that I'm doing now.
I think the young people should know that your first job with a movie company, you offered to do it for free so that you could get yourself a portfolio. Am I correct?
That's correct. I went around to numerous publicity people, numerous producers, showing a portfolio of work that I had done in the Virgin Islands, both yacht race and underwater stuff, just the people of the islands. And they all thought it was very beautiful, but it was nothing that they could really use unless they were doing a remake of Mutiny on the Bounty. And so I looked around in the trade papers and found someone who needed a photographer, couldn't pay them, but bought all the film, did all the developing, and I did my first film for free, just showing up on days that I could work.
Now, what is exactly, I'll come back to some of my questions, but what is exactly the job of a unit still photographer? Like on the Abyss, on Predator 2, What do you do exactly?
Well, what I do is I show up on the set every day with all my camera equipment is kept on the camera truck where all the other, I'm part of the camera crew. I stand next to the camera and I take my main job is to take photographs of what is recorded by the motion picture camera with the same size lens and the same frame, so that when you're reading a review of a magazine, in a magazine, when you're reading a review of a movie, or you're reading the newspaper in the calendar section, whatever, and it says, you know, it's a review, there's a photograph that usually accompanies that article, and that photograph is always taken by a still photographer on the set. It's not lifted from the film, from the motion picture camera.
Do they use that also to match clothes from week to week, or to match lights, to match the sets?
That's a very minor part of my job. I do have a Polaroid camera, and when they need it for what's called continuity, for makeup, hair, clothing, whatever, if whatever department, be it the props, be it the makeup department or the wardrobe, if they need a still for continuity, then I will step forward with my Polaroid to grab that. But that's a very small part of my job.
Are you told by the director or the whoever it is what to shoot, or do you take it upon yourself to shoot? Do you have that leeway, that liberty?
If I'm told anything on the set, it's basically to go away. As an actress, you know that there are distractions on a film set.
Yes.
And oftentimes you have a boom mic in your face, or the continuity girl watching you, and you look up and there's a still photographer with this huge camera pointed right at your face. It is a distraction. So part of my job is to be very sneaky, to sit back in the background, to try to shoot the rehearsals, to try to get the shot without bothering the actual day-to-day making of the film.
You don't shoot actually during the take?
No, I do.
You do during the take?
Yeah, I have what's called a blimp, which is a soundproof box that I put my camera inside of. It's all lined with foam, and you can focus through it. You set your exposures, and you focus through it, and you can shoot during the scene completely.
And does it make any noise?
Completely silently.
Okay. Now, I am sure the young people are very much interested in that. Is still photography a good paying job?
Still photography, when I started, as I said, I did my first film for free. Basically, my next two films after that were, you could consider them for free. They were very cheap. Over the years, I've been doing this since the end of '83, so almost 8 years now. I would say my pay scale has gone up by 25% each year.
Are you a member of the union?
I do belong to the local 659 International Photographers.
Now, what are the advantages of belonging to the union? Or is it necessary for somebody who wants to work to belong to a union? Or can they start without being in the union?
I worked from '83 through '88 when I got my first union show, Midnight Run, with Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin. Very funny show. I worked all those years, 5 years, without being affiliated with the union.
So what was the advantage of you joining the union?
Higher pay scale, definitely. Better working conditions, and health and welfare benefits.
I see.
But just because you don't belong to a union is no reason to feel that, oh, I can't get into the union because my brother or my father's not in it. That's no reason to feel that way at all. Unions in the film businesses are opening up right now. 659 has been open for about 2 years. If you can prove work experience of 100 days on any non-union film, you walk right in, they give you a card, and you pay them a lot of money for initiation.
Really? Oh, that's good to know. Now, is it difficult for you to get a job? Do you have to have an agent, like directors or writers or actors?
No, crew positions on film you get mainly through just personal connections, people you've worked with before, people that you call on the phone, that you do research about a film that's going to happen. And You basically, most of my job when I'm not working is on the phone, reading the trade papers, finding out who's doing what, and
So you do the legwork, actually.
leg and phone.
I'm going to give you your resume so that you can show
Thanks, I'll give myself a job.
the young people. You have about a minute to explain that.
This is a basic resume that one would, I've had this typeset at a desktop publishing company, which are available at any kind of printing place. Basically, you want to have your name at the top so they know who you are. These are my union affiliations. And then you list your credits. I prefer, as a photographer, to list not just my credits. Here's Point Break, Predator 2, Dick Tracy, Arachnophobia, The Abyss. Not just to mention the producers and directors that I've worked with, because people hiring me will want to know that, but also the stars that I've photographed and the people I've worked with, because so often stars will want to have a say as to who's going to be photographing them on their next show.
Also, they can get hired on the strength of a star that likes you?
Exactly. I'll probably be doing Mickey Rourke's next show because I just worked with him on a film.
Davidson?
Yeah, I just worked on Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
Okay, now, when you're on the set, what is the difference between you working at any other job that you have had before, and you have had many, in order to sustain yourself? Is there no boredom on a set? Is that what it is?
I've found that over the course of learning my craft, and I do learn for each film that I do, I find that the boredom gets less because I buy more and more equipment, and I'm constantly aware of what I have to do, publicity-wise, to represent this film to the public. Of course, the set is boring. There's a lot of sitting around, but you take that sitting around time in between takes or in between setups to reload your cameras, to clean your gear, to do a setup, to set up some strobes on the other studio over here, to convince people to do more shots, to get the behind-the-scenes stuff, to edit your film from the day before. There's always stuff to do. But I suppose what I really like about the job is that I am my own boss. I mean, all they can really tell me is, please not shoot this take, or please go away for this, it's too sensitive of a thing. I am in charge of deciding what to shoot, when to shoot it, and when to walk away. That's basically the only responsibility. It's
Now, when you're on the set and the day is finished, it's 6:30, 7 o'clock, or whatever, what happened to your film? Do you take care of it? Who takes care of the film that you have shot all day?
unlike other photographers who have to label their film, stick it in a bag, take it to the lab, do snip test, edit it, get it back the next day. I just stick it in a bag, label it, I give it to someone else, they drive it to the lab, they drop it off, and I never have to see it again because it all goes to the publicity department of whoever I'm working for.
And nobody ever called you and said, Richard, we didn't particularly care for those photographs today?
In this business, no news is good news. If they don't call me, they loved it. If there's a problem, that's when they call. They may say, we need tighter headshots, we need, it was a little bit underexposed, we need this, we need that, but more than likely they'll just leave it up to me to do whatever I have to do.
What is next for you?
I'm working 2 weeks on a film coming up. A lot of my job entails not just a full film, but filling in for someone when they go to another film. My next job is, I start next Tuesday with William Hurt doing The Doctor. After
a friend of mine, Randa Haynes, is directing it.
Yes, it's the reunion from Children of Lesser God. Yes. Elizabeth Perkins is also in it. And from there, I'll either do one of 4 films. My portfolio right now is circulating through the different studios. I'll either be in Seattle, I might go to Toronto for another MGM film. I could possibly be in South Carolina working with Don Johnson, who I just worked with on Harley Davidson, Marlboro Man. Or I could be in town working on a Steve Martin film.
In other words, you haven't changed from being an army brat. You travel around. Now I would call you a movie brat, right?
Yes, and I think John Huston said making a film is like making a war.
Oh. We have now 2.5 minutes for you to address the young people directly, or the parents, or the educators, whichever you like best.
Well, I suppose I have some words for everybody. Most importantly, the young people out there. This business is so full of rejection, so full of, you're not the right type, whether you're an actor, whether you're, like myself, a photographer, or whatever. You haven't done it before, therefore we're going to give the job to someone who has done it before. You just have to keep trying. You have to keep pushing at all avenues to explore not only what you want to do, what you feel most comfortable doing, but just to get the job. You have to get lucky, but you have to make your own luck. You have to be aggressive about getting out there, meeting people, and knowing that even if you're rejected for one job, you've met another person who will remember you in the future. You have to make your own luck. Someone said, luck is where opportunity meets preparation. You have to get out there and find the opportunities, but you have to be prepared to take advantage of them when they suddenly arise.
Actually, your opportunity really came when scuba diving met photography in the Abyss. That was your big break.
Right? The Abyss was probably my second major break in film production. The Abyss for me was a culmination of wanting to do underwater photography. Originally, I came to LA to do that. There was no future in it. 5 years later, I end up as a still photographer on the largest underwater film ever made. And
you're in.
And there I was in.
Okay. I would like to thank Richard for his experience and his expertise. Thank you.
Thank you.
And remember, you people out there, keep watching us, because we keep watching out for you. Thank you. Till next time.